I think Tevez going to Juventus will
do more damage to Barcelona than the other way around.
Either he's really blind or he's fixing the match. I can't see it any other way.
It is enough that you would expect Man United to go and win there.
Over $1 billion was paid in transfer fees between the clubs in Europe.
It's football. It's damn football. Like Fergie. Yeah, well, the celebration was, I can't believe I just won in Mexico.
At one point, Parma, I think it's only like 224 players under contract.
It is. So out of here, fellas. You're going to get me arrested on your show.
If you're a serious talent, you're going back and you're playing for Santos. You know, you're going back to play for, like, in Argentina for...
He looked like the Ryan Giggs of old. He was more creative than any player on the pitch. He made Mata look stupid. He made Rooney look silly.
Now, the Premier League is the most exciting league out there. I think it's probably the best marketed league without a question.
When you look at the draw for the Champions League, you kind of say, well, all the pieces kind of fell into place for everybody except City.
I am your host, Joe Usello. Sir Bob, Mike Orr, my co-host, Rob Rojas, my trusted co-host, Ben the Machine. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 90 of Low Limit Football on this September 21st, 2015. I'm your host, Joe Usello, and hopefully these Skype bugs will stay away tonight so that we can actually get this show in and done. Got a great guest list planned for you guys tonight. We have Simon Bajkowski from the Manchester Evening News joining us, and we also have a pre-recorded interview with Sivan John from Mundo Albicelestie that we did earlier in the week that we're going to be happy to play for you. We had a great week of soccer coming off of Champions League and Europa League coverage, as well as the leagues getting back into it this week. And we're going to see some midweek action this week in a few of the European leagues, leading us up into the following weekend of football action. So taking it up to the Great White North first of all, and it's going to be Great White North soon because it is getting colder. Mike Orr, Mike, what's going on?
I'm doing good, Joe.
To get this show in, I do see that our connection is a little shaky, it seems, for some reason, and I don't know what's going on.
For some reason, and we know why, which is Skype's been down all day.
Yeah, but this doesn't seem to be a Skype thing. This seems to be...
I see. I misunderstood.
This might be a computer thing, but you never know with the Skype bugs floating around if they're going to be an issue tonight or not. Hopefully they will stay away long enough for us to get this in. Taking it down to my counterpart in the same state as me, Rob Rojas.
It's been an impressive week of football that we've seen. A lot of controversy, a lot of great goals. It just, the entire package, it never seems to disappoint.
Yeah.
Rob lives south of you?
Southwest of me.
Southwestern.
Oh, all right.
Yep, so...
near New York City.
Yeah,
I'll have to pull a map out and have a look one day.
Yeah, he's much closer, so... So we've got a great show tonight. We obviously have Simon Bajkowski, like I had mentioned earlier, from the Manchester Evening News, joining us in about 10 minutes or so. We've got our opening thoughts topic that we are finally concluding this series. We're going to have to come up with a new topic once we finish this one off tonight. And we've got the good old trivia question that I always get wrong. So you know what, Mike? Because I know we've got a couple of minutes to discuss an opening topic or opening thoughts, why don't you hit us with the trivia question real quick here?
All right. Since the Premier League began, 8 players with the letter Z in their name have made over 200 Premier League appearances. Name them. So now I'll read this for our British and Canadian viewers because I said Z. Since the Premier League began, 8 players with a letter Z Premier League.
Letter Z.
8 players, right?
8, yeah.
Okay, Rob with it, but I've got 2.
Liam says he's going to send me 8 in a couple seconds. So.
Oh my good lord, that sounds about right. So, Liam.
Actually, I expect you to come up with far more than 2, though, Joe. Once you start thinking about it.
Well, because I've got my mind on all this computer stuff, and I've got my mind on the internet connection and everything. That 2 names appeared to me. And Luca, I don't think you are the only one having issues with the podcast. I think actually part of it is my computer tonight for some reason. But I will do my best to keep an eye on it and keep things running as lean and mean as possible. It could also be a heavy Twitter. Not a Twitter night, but a heavy Skype night where we're having some trouble with the Skype, which might be drawing on everything. So hopefully we'll stay away from all of that. But Luca, I've closed down a bunch of windows here, so hopefully things will stabilize just slightly. So. let's get to our opening thoughts topic, gentlemen, while we chew on the trivia question.
And I'll just say that all these 8 names, no hidden names.
There's no weird ones. Okay.
Yeah, no unusual, no player you might not just know. You've definitely heard of every one of them.
200 appearances.
200 or more, yeah.
Yep. So I think let's hit the opening thoughts topic. Now, we've covered 4 leagues so far as to the first manager getting sacked. This is the last one. It is the La Liga edition of the Who's Getting Sacked This Time Around episode. So I'm gonna go to Rob first, because Rob, you cover La Liga for us, and you're most familiar with it. So and Liam has sent the answers to the chat to the question.
To chat or to me?
No, not to chat, to you.
All right.
So Rob, who's getting sacked first in Spain?
I think the person that's going to get sacked in Spain is someone who has had a bit of bad luck in England, and someone who Mike probably has a big interest in, considering that he was part of the team of his life.
I have the exact same name as you, so.
Oh, good. Then my options are still open. So go ahead and lay out your first name.
It has to be David Moyes. Yep, David Moyes of Real Sociedad. He currently sits 17th in the league, just right by the relegation zone, only separated by goal difference by Malaga, Levante, and Sevilla, who are currently 18th, 19th, and 20th, respectively. Mm-hmm. I think they haven't won a game yet. They have 2 draws and 2 losses. I'm looking at their schedule right now. I think it looks a little bit tough going into, and they just don't have the same team that they used to, basically, even with the likes of Carlos Vela on the side and Diego Reyes and others. But it's a completely different side than it was last year or 2 years ago. And they had Antoine and Griezmann in there. I see him the first one to go.
Okay. Mike, sounds like you have the same answer.
Yeah, but I actually would say that they have a very decent starting 11, and the fact that they're underperforming has more to do with the reason why he's going to get dismissed than the loss of some players. They still have a really good team on paper. But unfortunately, they only have 2 draws and have suffered 2 back-to-back defeats now. During the week here, they've got Granada coming up, and then they got a Basque derby with Bilbao. So I'm pretty sure, depending on those results, we could see him gone by Sunday.
Yeah, losses to, I believe it was Real Betis and Espanyol most recently. I would also just say that one of the things that he's thankful for right now, I'm sure, are Emery at Sevilla and Nuno in Valencia. Okay.
Because I'm not sure if you're going to mention one of them as your choices, but they're also under the cosh here. So
Unai Emery made my cut, but after looking at it and looking at the answers that you guys gave or the responses you guys gave, I was going a different route. Unai Emery is definitely my honorable mention in this category, and I honestly didn't even think of David Moyes. But he certainly is a big-time option. I'm going to actually go with the team sitting just above Sociedad, and I think it's actually because of Alphabet, really. Looking at it, they have the same goal differential, but they've lost 2 of their last 3, and that's going to be Malaga, gentlemen. And more specifically, Javier Garcia currently head there. They lost 1-0 at the Camp Nou to Barcelona. And most recently, over the weekend, they lost 1-0 to Getafe. They've only given up those 2 goals, the one to Getafe and one to Barcelona. But drawing 0-0 with Eibar and drawing 0-0 with Sevilla, who was my other honorable mention, no goals through the first 4 games is a bad spot to be in. And clearly, the strikers at Malaga are underperforming at the moment. So I think with them, I think if it's not Moyes, it's going to be Javier Garcia first. But I think it's going to be those 2. And Mike, and Unai Emery. If we saw Unai Emery go, it would be not only because he's gotten off to the bad start and in La Liga with currently same record, 2 losses, 2 draws, but you'll also want to see how they're doing in the Champions League. Again, in that same group of death with Manchester City, Juventus, and Mönchengladbach, and we'll talk about Mönchengladbach in a moment. But you could also see them possibly not playing well, not performing well in Champions League, and maybe Emery gets that that pink slip as well. So, Mike, did you have any other options? I know you said you had a couple of names that you were thinking.
Yeah, just Nuno in Valencia and Emery at Sevilla were my other two.
Okay, yep. And Valencia, I'm just looking, currently sitting 7th in the table. 1 win, 3 draws, no losses. They've only given up 1 goal, but they've only scored 2. So most recently over the weekend, I can't imagine that being anything other than a 0-0 draw to Betis. Yep. But their one victory is 1-0 over Sporting Gijón, and then 2 draws prior to that to open the season. So,
and a lot of expectations there compared to the other managers we mentioned. Like Valencia's a lot bigger team than the other ones. Well, maybe not Sevilla, but definitely more expectations on Valencia to finish high up the table than, say, Real Sociedad.
Right, exactly. While we're on the talk of sacking managers, Mike, I want to throw it over to you because I know you might know a little bit more about this than everyone else, and that's what's happened in Chicago last night. If you want to talk about that quickly.
Yeah, I guess they have dismissed Frank Gallup, and they've hired Nelson Rodriguez, who by all accounts is one of the most brilliant minds in U.S. soccer. I'm not that aware of him, but that's what I've been reading. And so this is just a change overall, but I know a lot of people were wishing the ownership would have removed.
That's what you've been seeing a lot. You know, they've been talking about this on the rating, rated sooner than later. The other one I want to talk about, and Rob, you might know a little bit about it if you've seen the headlines, and that is the headlines on Lucien Favre at Mönchengladbach.
Yeah, the poor start that Mönchengladbach have been suffering, not only in the league and having the not the good best of starts in the Champions League as well. I guess that the board, they had enough.
Yeah. Now, in our defense, we did not pick Lucien Favre to be sacked. However, we did kind of dance around him. I went back and listened. I think it was, Mike, I messaged this to you last night. Was it episode 87 of the show? 86 or 87? I can't quite recall which one it was.
Right.
But one of the 2 episodes, we literally, all 3 of us danced around Lucien Favre, but none of us actually pulled the trigger on singling him out as the one being sacked. Now, in our defense, he was not sacked. He actually stepped down as manager at Mönchengladbach.
Right. So in our defense, again, I will say that doesn't count because you told me when I said, "Oh, we better get on this because Sunderland, what's his name again?"
Dick Advocaat.
I said we better get on this because it sounds like he's going to either be let go or is going to walk away. And you said, "Well, if he walks away, that doesn't count." So, do you remember that?
I do.
So I guess we don't count this one, and we're still waiting for our first sacking.
Yep. But so
we could still be right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I didn't and I didn't go back and really write down who we had picked for those episodes, and we can always go back and I can drop a little article on the website as to who we had selected as the first manager sacked by our choice. But I'll do that. Maybe even if we get off the air early enough tonight, I will go back and recap. But we're going with David Moyes at Real Sociedad, and we're going with Malaga's Javier Garcia as the first managers to potentially be sacked in La Liga.
So maybe you want to write them ones down, Joe, and this is one show we won't have to go back and see who we picked.
Yeah, exactly. I'll put them down next to my answers for the show for the question here. But and now it's in the books, so when it's ready, we're ready to go. Now, all we're doing right now is we're waiting on our guest, Simon Bajkowski from the Manchester Evening News. Hopefully he'll be with us soon, but he did message me on Twitter just a few moments ago that he was having trouble with his Skype. So it could very well be one of those nights, gentlemen, that it's just not going to fly. And we'll end up doing most of this in vain, but we'll end up at least giving it a try. So let's, you know what? Liam, I'm sorry, who was it? It was not Liam. It was Luca that messaged. I'm sorry, it was Liam that messaged to me that what I said to you, Mike, when Morata scored. And I was gentle about it. I didn't say anything bad or anything like that. I was actually kind of shocked that I heard the final result. I went back and watched the game afterwards. But you and I kind of disagreed as to who was the best player in the game, Mike, correct?
Refresh my memory who I said it was and how we disagreed. I don't remember disagreeing.
I thought it was, and I'd have to go back and look at our chat. I thought you had said that it was Morata. Either Morata or it was somebody from City.
Yeah, I'm sure I said someone from City.
Yeah. But I'd said it was Paul Pogba. Pogba, for me, played the best out of anybody on the pitch. He was everywhere. Now, maybe the second half he wasn't quite as dominant.
I thought Fernandinho was pretty good.
Yeah, maybe it was him that you had mentioned.
Same kind of position, kind of player that it's the reason why they were thinking of bringing Paul Pogba in, I believe, because of his poor season last season. But I'm kind of glad they didn't right at the moment, considering the price tag and stuff.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. I don't know if you see Luca's comment in the chat. Do you agree or disagree?
I haven't seen it. Hold on.
Aguero has been in...
I kind of agree with that.
Okay. No, that's fine. And again...
Especially on the weekend.
And it's been such a short season. You know, what are we, 6
Yeah,
months?
I'm not worried about him. But yeah, no, I'd agree with Luca there that he's off to a slow start.
Yeah. But 6 matches in, we have 32 matches to go, and that's true as well. That both of them have kind of gotten off to a slow start. We talked about this with Those are the kind of players that are there when the games really start to matter, though. So right,
could be a case of that too. And summers are getting shorter in this sport.
Yeah. And the players aren't getting much rest. So it's really going to, to be honest with you, Mike, I think that kind of fares. It's a bad sign for a guy like Kun Aguero, who tends to have trouble staying healthy all season. Putting all the added, apologize to the listeners. It seems to me like it might be my computer more than anything else that's really causing some trouble tonight. So hopefully this kind of stabilizes. I'll end up closing more windows and.
Sounds good on my end ever since the beginning.
Yeah, but I think and I think Luca pointed it out that he was having some trouble with the connections and stuff. Even in the chat, my chat seems like it's been loading all night. So hopefully things will smooth out here. I am going to give Simon while we're sitting here, chit chatting to see if we can connect him. And if we can't, then what we might do is to give Simon a little bit of a break. We'll play our interview with Sivan John. And then move forward from there. So let's see here. I'm going to see if we can add him in quickly, and then go with it from there. But like I said, he was having some issues tonight too, trying to get things sorted out. So hopefully, and I don't know if this is a my computer issue or if this is a Skype issue, but one way or another, it's becoming, it's just a little sloppy. But hopefully, and it doesn't look like it's connecting Simon at the moment. So I think what we're going to do, it says call failed. So, gentlemen, if you don't mind, I know this is kind of a reversal of our plan, but I would say we can go with the Sivan John interview, and then we will regroup in a few moments and see if we can get Simon Bajkowski on the show. Without any further ado, our interview with Sivan John from Mundo Albicelestie. And joining us now from Low Limit Football from Mundo Albicelestie is Sivan John. John, it's Joe Usello. How are you tonight? Good. Thanks again for joining us. We appreciate you having on the show. I want to open with, instead of an Argentina question, I want to open up with an Asian qualifying question. Yep. Seeing that you're based in Malaysia currently, the Malaysian national team is having a little bit of a tough go. They did manage a 1-1 draw with Timor-Leste in their qualifying match, but subsequent losses of 6-0 to it looks like the United Arab Emirates and a 10-0 loss as well previously following up. It doesn't look like Malaysia will manage to qualify. They've only managed one goal so far, and I'm missing his name at the moment. But he's also a club player. Tell me about the Malaysian national team while I research his name. And obviously it's not looking good for them to qualify. Who do you see coming out of their group in group?
Expected to be a very tough qualifier for Malaysian football, as you know that we are currently now ranked in the world about, I think it's in 165 or something. Mm-hmm. And we are not considered to be among one of the best in Asia. As you know, in Asia there is a huge gap between the big countries, the middle countries, and then even the small countries. It's not so competitive as you can see it in Europe, for instance. So we did kind of expected that we were going to have a tough qualifying campaign, especially against the two Middle Eastern countries, the United Arab Emirates and even Saudi Arabia, even Palestine for that matter. But what we didn't expect was this huge defeat against Palestine, and then followed up by that 10-0 loss against United Arab Emirates, which has been officially recognized as the worst defeat in Malaysian football. So it's not really looking good for us to even qualify for the Asian Cup in 2019 because I'm not so sure whether you're aware that the qualifiers for the World Cup in Asia is also coincide with the Asia Cup 2019 as well.
Right. They run back to back. The person I wanted to ask you about quickly is the single goal scorer for Malaysia at the moment, who is Safi Salih, who plays for a team called JDT in Malaysia. They're as old as me, 43 years. They were founded 43 years ago. But you look at the stadium capacity for them; it's 30,000 capacity. Clearly, there's a following for football in Malaysia. Tell me about the Football Federation in Malaysia and what they do to kind of develop the game moving forward there.
Well, actually, that's the main problem because the Football Association of Malaysia hasn't been doing the right thing over the past 30 years in terms of helping to develop the Malaysian football or taking it to another level. Mm-hmm. And in recent times, there has been this sort of awareness among European football, South American football, and all that. But now there is a growing sense among local fans about supporting your local team, supporting your local national team. And they are demanding for the Football Association, to change, to revamp their mentality, the way they think, how they should run a football association. Mm-hmm. Because, in my opinion, the way things are running there, it's still very much stuck like how it was in the 1980s. They haven't moved forward since then. Okay. And, it's a big concern for fans here in Malaysia.
Sure, absolutely. I'm going to send you over to Rob Rojas because Rob, I know, Rob really covers South America for us heavily and certainly is very familiar with the Argentinian national team. So he'll definitely draw on your Albicelestie knowledge. So, Rob, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, hi, John. It's nice to have you on the show.
Hey, hi, Rob.
Yeah, I just have one question regarding a famous Argentine player who actually went to Malaysia, I believe, 2 years ago, Pablo Aimar. He went to the club Johor Darul Tassim in 2013, yes. Played 8 matches and scored 2 goals. Why do you think someone who had a successful career at River Plate and then went to Valencia, Zaragoza, and Benfica decided to go to Malaysia, out of all places, in the twilight of his career?
Well, actually, it may not be from the player's point of view, but I think it's from the club's owner who has made all the effort to bring Pablo Aimar to Johor. JDT is actually a club that was just... Of course, as Bo was saying that they were 43 years, but actually this team has been revamped and been rebranded as known as Johor Darul 2013. And it's the founder of the team was actually the Crown Prince of Johor. Idea of trying to change scene by trying to attract bigger names. If you can remember that actually his first big signing was Danny Guiza, who was a top scorer in La Liga, I think in 2007 or 8, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
he was the first big name to come over. And then subsequently Pablo Aimar. And currently, right now, they also have Lucho Figueroa. Probably you would have remembered him during his days with Villarreal. I think he played even in the Confederation Cup for Argentina in 2005. Yes,
I do.
Yep. So, and there has been, I'm not so sure how far is it true, but there are, rumors saying that he might want to bring Fernando Torres in the future. So actually, this owner, he's very progressive-minded. He's really thinking ahead compared to everybody else who's running Malaysian football. And he has always been pretty much the number one vocal critic of the Football Association in Malaysia, actually.
Yeah, of course, I understand. And going back to your theory about Danny Guiza, I do remember him as a player. He played the club that I 1993, failing to win the World Cup in Brazil last year and the Copa America a few months ago. Just in your simple idea, why do you think they failed to win both tournaments consecutively?
Well, it's a very painful question, to be honest. I think it's not down to the player, but in my opinion, I think, the fact that we lost, for example, the Copa America final, I think, in my opinion, I would, partially, or shall I say, I will put the blame back on Tata Martino in terms of his tactical approach, because it's very obvious that he was outplayed by his compatriot on the other side, Sampaoli. So, that's where I will put my blame, because it's nothing to do with the players. I think the players that we have, this generation of football players, is pretty much one of the best in many years, if I can remember. And, what they need now is someone, in my opinion, as a Diego Simeone who can final.
Yes, of course. And going back to what you said about Tata Martino, and he's always been a coach. He used to coach the Taiwan national team a few years ago. And he was a coach where he got a little... he got the most out of a little, basically. When he was a coach at Newell's, he had a little team and they made it to the Copa Libertadores semifinals. But when he was at Barcelona and then now the Argentine national team, they haven't done much progression. Although they won games, they haven't able to get major silverware in that matter.
Yep.
And that leads me to a segue to my next question. Besides Simeone, who do you think would be the perfect replacement for Tata Martino if he does leave?
Actually, I would kind of like if the AFA looks for an outsider. And in my opinion, the outsider I would look at is Jorge Sampaoli, because before this, he was pretty much an unknown figure. I mean, for fans like me who live in Malaysia, we get not much little stories about what's going on in South American football. And so I got to know about him managing Chile in the World Cup, and then what a great job he has done with this.
My co-host told me, what about the recent Copa Libertadores and Sudamericana champion, Marcelo Gallardo of River?
Well, he has potential, that's for sure. But I think give him some time to develop himself at club football, especially with River Plate, because I can see him doing a lot more wonders with River. And hopefully, in a few years down the road, who knows, he might take his coaching ability to manage one of the top clubs in Europe. But I do see him as a candidate as well.
Absolutely. You look at the silverware that he's won in the little time he was at River, Libertadores, Sudamericana, Recopa. He's maybe going for the Club World Cup in a few months, so anything is possible. He's only 39 years old, so that's like baby years.
And just to add on a little bit more, and another thing what I like about Gallardo is that I think the kind of brand of football that he's putting into River, the way they are playing, it pretty much kind of reminds me of the Argentine football that I used to remember growing up, the Gambetta style, which is currently a little bit lacking these days, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course. I've been watching Argentine football all the time. National team leagues, Copa Libertadores. It's definitely lacking that. That's for sure. Just my last question. We've always had this discussion regarding who is the best player in the world, and obviously Lionel Messi has been talked about ever since that day. Do you believe that if Lionel Messi had won the World Cup, would he, one, be the best player of all time, and two, been better than his counterpart, Diego Maradona?
Well, I don't know whether I would say that he will be greater than Diego Maradona, because Maradona is the reason why that I fell in love with football. I mean, he touched me in a way that, a lot of footballers failed to do so until, Messi came abroad. But definitely, I think, a World Cup in his already huge, successful resume will put him right at the top there. If not the greatest, definitely among the greatest, which I think he is already. Yes. I mean, if we want to talk about a player who has achieved almost everything except for his national team, if you're going to judge what he can do for his country more than his club, I think that's not fair, because, Johan Cruyff didn't win anything for Holland, but nevertheless, the kind of football he played, he's being such an influential figure, he still is being reminded by everyone as one of the greatest footballers of all time.
Absolutely. And you look at Pele, who's never played in Europe, but he's won 3 World Cups with Brazil, or Maradona, who hasn't really won major in his time in Europe. Nothing like a Champions League or anything, but has won the World Cup, which is why he is in that discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I really want to thank you for coming out, and I'm going to pass it over to Joe.
Thanks, Rob. John, you bring up a great point on Johan Cruyff. You even want to go back maybe slightly further into history and look at a guy like Eusebio, who passed away about a year ago now. You're talking about 2 wonderful, but still we consider them some of the greatest footballers of all time.
Yes.
So I think you make a great point about Johan Cruyff, and at the same time, equating that to Messi, we're talking about greatness here no matter how we look at it. I am actually surprised that Rob didn't ask this question, because this is one of Rob's favorite questions. We even asked it last week. We talk about, aside from Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, who are granted 1 and 2 as the top 2 players in the world, we talk about the next young player to possibly be that next great world star. I'd like your thoughts on Sergio Aguero, who was brought up this past week. Miguel Delaney, who we interviewed last week on the show, was one of the first times where a guest who we had asked that question actually volunteered Kun Aguero's name in the discussion instead of Eden Hazard or Neymar or even Paul Pogba. So I'd like your thoughts on Kun Aguero before I take you back to the Malaysian. I'm sorry, not to Malaysia, but to the Asian World Cup qualifying.
Well, I think definitely Messi and Ronaldo are, a class above compared to all the other footballers at this current generation.
Sure.
But I think close behind them, you can put Sergio Aguero there, you can put Eden Hazard, you can even put Neymar there, or even Luis Suarez for that matter. As for Sergio Aguero, well, I've always believed that, I think toe-to-toe he's more or less on par with what Messi is. But it's just that, he's living in the Messi era. So he definitely, doesn't really get the kind of recognition that he probably deserves.
Yes.
But I think he has done wonderful things for Man City, for Atletico Madrid, and maybe for the Argentine national team, not so much. But who knows? Maybe in this World Cup qualifier, because, he's coming with a great form. Who knows what he can do?
I think with Aguero, the only issue is if he could just stay out of the training room and the injuries. I think we'll appreciate his football often. Thank you again for your time tonight. I want to ask, have only given up 2 goals. Qatar, many people, especially here in the United States, view the country with football eyes as a very controversial side, but certainly performing very, very well, especially in a group that also has China, who has not given up a goal in qualifying, mind you, and Hong Kong, who's also playing very, very well, having drawn China 0-0. Tell me, what you know about this Qatari side, and do you think they can, if they qualify for 2018 in Russia, can they make a little noise in there and be one of those surprise teams?
Well, actually, I've not been following much about Qatar football, but I do know for a fact that the several players in their starting lineup are not actually Qatari-born players. Oh. Many of them are nationalized players who. It's pretty much what's been going on in Qatar, not just in football, but also in various other sports for that matter, because the country is really heavily investing money in trying to bring the best. I would say that they can qualify for Russia, because I still think that, when it comes to Asian football, comes to the final stage, it's going to be the usual suspects. I think South Korea, Japan, and Australia, probably Iran slightly behind them, they are definitely a league of their own. So it's going to take a lot more effort from Qatar in Russia.
That actually leads me to my last question. Is there a side in Asian qualifying, aside from the big ones, like you said, like Japan, potentially upset the apple cart, to say, and qualify over one of those teams to head to Russia?
Emirates is a very highly potential team. If you look at their playmaker, I can't remember his name, but if you have watched the match against Malaysia, he's a number 10 player. Brilliant player. I mean, technically, he's, I would say, one of the best in Asia. I do hope that, he could make it to Europe, because a lot of problems when it comes to Middle Eastern footballers is that they don't want to go abroad because the money they're earning in their own league is good enough. So I will put UAE there. Another team that I hope could defy the odds and qualify for a World Cup is Uzbekistan.
Okay. Uzbekistan, I'm just looking them up quickly. I saw the UAE was at the top of their group with Saudi Arabia in Group A. Just searching for Uzbekistan quickly here as we're talking. There are quite a few groups here. There's obviously many teams involved here, and I just can't seem to find them quickly. Let's see here. Group H, Uzbekistan currently second. 2 wins and a loss in qualifying. Losing to the Philippines, it looks like. Losing to Uzbekistan second in Group H in qualifying for the World Cup. And had actually tied with the Philippines, even on differential, so World Cup qualify you. And I'd love to have you back again soon.
Okay, sure. I also appreciate to be a part of this show as well. And thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was Sivan John from Mundo Albicelestie. Glad he could join us tonight. Looks like we might have disconnected from the server there for a moment. And like I said, I think as much as we're having Skype trouble tonight, I think I'm also having computer trouble tonight. So this could end up being the mystery show that never existed or something like that. I'm not sure. But we're definitely going to go with it. And worst case scenario is if this is a total fail show and we need to regroup or something, then we will definitely replay that interview. I don't know how choppy it was for the listeners, so we'll definitely move forward with it. So, gentlemen, the interview here, and I haven't heard back from him, so I think Simon's having as much computer trouble tonight as we possibly are. So I think what we'll probably do is have Simon again on maybe even as early as next week. I know we've got a big guest planned for next week, but Simon is definitely as big a guest, so we would definitely want to move forward with him. So with that in mind, gentlemen, let's head over to the European leagues and recap what's gone on in this past week. So Rob, if you are there and ready, I would like to throw it over to you to recap La Liga.
Yes, of course. And La Liga was back. On Monday we had on Friday we had Getafe 1-0 over Malaga. On Saturday we had Real Madrid 1-0 over Granada. Valencia 0-0 over Betis. In the match of the week we had Atletico Madrid play Eibar. We predicted I believe it was 2-0 to Atletico Madrid. That score was correct. 2-0 to Atletico Madrid. Goals from, I believe, just give me 1 second so I can check it out. Goals from on game of the day, we had Espanyol 3-2 Real Sociedad. On Sunday, we had Celta Vigo 2-0 over Sevilla. A disappointing Sevilla still, despite being the back-to-back Europa League champions. Sporting Gijón 3-2 over Deportivo La Coruña. Villarreal 3-1 over Athletic Bilbao. Rayo Vallecano against Las Palmas. And Barcelona 4-1 over Levante. With 12 points. Second, we have Real Madrid with 10. And third, Villarreal with 10. And Eibar, surprising Eibar, in 7th. Bottom of the table, we have Las Palmas, Malaga, and Real Sociedad, respectively, in 18, 19, 20. Top goal scorer still remains Ronaldo with 5. Nolito from Celta Vigo with 4. Karim Benzema with 3. Alderez of Athletic Bilbao with 3. And Lionel Messi with 3. And that was La Liga.
All right, so let's take it over to Ligue 1, I believe, is our next league up. And we're going to talk about the matches that happened over the past week here. So, and again, I want to apologize to the listeners if it's choppy. I believe it is my computer tonight and not Skype at this point. So, we're going to still try to make this show happen. Worst case scenario is you're going to get a lot of the same information, maybe in a few days or something. So, without further ado, on Friday in Ligue 1, we had Rennes and Lille play to a 1-1 draw. We had Reims and Paris Saint-Germain play to a 1-1 draw as well. That's the second blemish in a row on PSG's record in the season. Angers 1-0 over Troyes. We had Nice on the road beating Bastia 3-1. Caen 2-1 over Montpellier at home. Guingamp 2-1 over Ajaccio. And on Sunday, we had Bordeaux and Toulouse play to a 1-1 draw. Monaco losing at home to Lorient 3-2. We had Saint-Etienne and Nantes play Saint-Etienne 2-0 over Nantes. And in our match of the week, which I don't remember what our prediction was, it was Marseille-Lyon. We had predicted a 2-0 Lyon victory and got that one wrong. We had, just calling up my match stats here, goals in this one from Alexander Lacazette in the 25th minute on a penalty kick, and Karim Rekik for Marseille in the 68th minute to win this. That is our recap of France. Let's go over to the Premier League, Mike, and give the recap on what happened there this week.
All right. Our game of the week was Chelsea and Arsenal. That took place on Saturday. It was the early game. The prediction was Chelsea winning 2-1. The final score was 2-0 Chelsea. Kurt Zuma and Eden Hazard in injury time scored for Chelsea. Shots on net, Chelsea 22 shots, 7 on target. Arsenal 9 shots, just 2 on target. Possession was 63-37 in favor of Chelsea in this one. We did have a few red cards and a couple of red cards to Arsenal. Gabriel was sent off. Yellow cards for Costa, Oscar, and Ivanovic for Chelsea. And I missed a yellow card to Callum Chambers for Arsenal's 2. And so the final score of that one was 2-0. 0-0. Manchester City was defeated at home by West Ham United 2-1. Bournemouth beat Sunderland 2-0. City 2, Leicester 2. Tottenham 1, Crystal Palace 0 on Sunday. Liverpool 1-1 with Norwich also on Sunday. And Southampton lost at home 2. Southampton 2, Manchester United 3. A few things that stood out for me on the weekend were the yellow cards by Gabriel and Carzola versus Chelsea. I think, this is my opinion, that Diego Costa is a cheap shot artist. I'm not suggesting he's not a dangerous goal scorer, but he's an agitator who revels in trying to have his opponent set off. This is sort of gamesmanship is not part of the game to me. It's just like diving or earning a foul or crowding the referee after a decision just isn't part of the game. For all his wonderful talents as a goal scorer, Diego Costa is to be the biggest weasel in the Premier League. He's a con artist of the highest order. So that was what stood out for me as far as the weekend went. The table, quickly, in fifth, it's Arsenal on 10 points. At the bottom of the table in 20th place, Sunderland with 2 points, Newcastle with 2 points, and Stoke right now in the relegation zone with 4 points. And if we look at the scores, it's Mahrez from Leicester with 5. Also on 5 is Callum Wilson, and we have a slew of them, including Igalo, Gomez, Vardy, and Pele, all on 4 points. 4 goals, and that's the Premier League this week, Joe.
All right, Rob, take it over to the Bundesliga and let us know what's happening there.
Yep, of course. On Friday, we had Mainz 3-1 over Hoffenheim. On Saturday, we had Wolfsburg against Hertha Berlin. I believe that was the match of the week, was it? Yes, it was. Match of the week, we had a 2-0 prediction for Wolfsburg. It came out to be a 2-0 victory for Wolfsburg against Hertha Berlin. The results, the goal scorers for the match were Bastos scoring twice, one in the 76th minute, one in the 88th minute. Also, we had Hamburg 0-0 over Eintracht Frankfurt, Ingolstadt 1-0 over Werder Bremen, Cologne 1-0 over Borussia Mönchengladbach, who had their manager sacked after that match. Bayern 3-0 over Darmstadt. As the table stands, we have Borussia Dortmund in first. In second, Bayern Munich, level on points with 15. In third, Wolfsburg with 11. Schalke with 10 points in fourth. In fifth, we have FC Cologne with 10. And in sixth, we have Ingolstadt in 10. Wrapping up the bottom half of the table, the bottom three of the table, we have Borussia Mönchengladbach and Stuttgart, who failed to have a point, and Hanover 96 in the relegation playoff. Top goal scorers, Thomas Muller with 6, Aubameyang with 6 as well, Yunus Mali of Mainz with 5, Bastos with 4 from Wolfsburg, and Luke Castellanos with 4 for Eintracht Frankfurt. And that was the Bundesliga.
All right, so let's take it over to Italy and hit the Serie A fixtures and results. On Monday, actually not worried about Monday's results. So on Saturday of last week, we had Empoli 2-1 over Udinese. AC Milan on Saturday as well, defeating Palermo at home 3-2. On Sunday, Chievo and Inter played, which was our predicted match of the week. We had predicted, I believe, a 2-0 victory for Inter in this one. We got the winner correct, but the score wrong. It was Inter 1-0 on a Mauro Icardi goal just before the halftime. And we'll go into that match in a moment. Elsewhere on Sunday, Atalanta and Verona played to a 1-1 draw. Bologna and Frosinone. Bologna defeated Frosinone 1-0. Juventus winning their first match of the season, not in Champions League, 2-0 over Genoa. Roma drawing Sassuolo 2-2, which was a very, very exciting game, gentlemen. Sassuolo held the lead in this match twice, only to give it back up. And a controversial goal, which was the 300th goal for Francesco Totti. Elsewhere, Torino 2-0 over Sampdoria, Fiorentina 1-0 over Carpi, and Napoli just absolutely laying it on Lazio 5-0. 2 goals by Gonzalo Higuain in this one to close out the scoring. Looking at actually, let's look at the statistics real quick on the Chievo-Inter matchup. We had 14 in favor of Chievo. Inter holding the majority of the possession, 54-45 on that one as well. And like we had mentioned, goal in the 42nd minute, the only scoring in this one. So the table as it stands right now in Italy after 4 matches, I believe it is Inter, perfect record, only given up 1 goal so far in the season. They're on 12 points. Torino in second on 10, Fiorentina on 9, Sassuolo and Roma rounding out the top 5 on 8 points each. Bottom of the table, Frosinone, Carpi, and Bologna currently in the relegation zone, just outside Udinese at 3 points, tied with Verona and Genoa, and Juventus moving their way up to 13th position. Top goal scorer at the moment in the league is Eder from Sampdoria with 5 goals. Fabio Quagliarella on 4 goals. Gonzalo Higuain with the 2 that he added over the weekend, raising his total to 4. Other players at 3 include Stefan Jovetic at Inter and Carlos Baca at AC Milan as well. So that is our Serie A roundup. Mike, I'm going to throw it over to you to close out the American side of the program.
All right, our Evolution versus the Red Bulls. We predicted 2-1 for Revolution, and the final score was 2-1 for the Revolution. It was Callan Rowe and Diego Fuguendez for the Revolution. Mike Grella replying for the Red Bulls. New England had 12 shots on goal, 4 on target. Red Bulls was 46-54 in favor of the losing Red Bulls. Yellow cards in this one were London Woodbury and Juan Agadello and Teal Bunbury for New England. A whole slew of them for the Red Bulls, as would be expected in this rivalry match. Connor Ladd, Maezga, Pernell, Felipe Martins, and Dax McCarty, all with yellows for the Red Bull. For the Red Bulls, yes. And so the final score is 2-1. Other games that took place on Wednesday night were the New York FC beating Toronto FC 2-0 at Yankee Stadium. And the third game on Wednesday was San Jose drawing at home versus Montreal 1-1. On Saturday, Sporting Kansas City beat Dallas 3-1. Toronto FC at home beat the Colorado Rapids after beating New York in that rivalry match. Lost at home 2-1 to Columbus. New York FC with their second win in the week, 3-2 over San Jose Earthquakes again at Yankee Stadium. Surprising one here, Vancouver Whitecaps lose 3-0 at home to the Seattle Sounders. Montreal Impact beat the Revolution 3-0 at home. Chicago Fire 0, Orlando City 1, Real Salt Lake 3, and the Galaxy 0. Portland Timbers 0, New York Red Bulls 2, and the Philadelphia Union 2, Houston Dynamo 0. A couple of things that stood out for me. Obviously, we talked about the coaching change with Frank Yallop being dismissed by the Fire and replaced by technical director Brian Bliss, and Nelson Rodriguez has been named the new general manager. The New York Red Bulls became the first team to qualify for the MLS playoffs after their 2-1 win over Portland on Sunday. Two teams that had to win on the weekend were Montreal and Toronto, and they both laid down dominant performances at home, both big winners on the weekend. And all hail Sebastian Giovinco with 2 more goals and an assist on Sunday. He brought his totals to 19 goals, 14 assists respectively. No player in MLS history has ever scored 20 goals and 15 assists in the 19 previous seasons of the MLS. And Giovinco seems to certain to top both of those marks this season. The table is New York Red Bulls, as we said, already qualified for the playoffs in first on 48 points, followed closely by Columbus with 40 to fourth now with 45 points. Toronto FC in fifth with a bit of breathing room over the Impact on 40 points. And the final playoff position is right now Montreal Impact on 36 points, but every team except for the Chicago Fire is probably still in this. Seventh, it's Orlando on 35. New York City FC on 34. In ninth, it's Philadelphia Union on 33. And then at the bottom of the table and well out of the playoffs is the Chicago Fire on 27 points. In the West, it's Vancouver leading with 48 points. FC Dallas just behind, but ahead of the LA Galaxy with 47 points on goal difference. Seattle Sounders on 45 in fourth. In fifth, it's Kansas City. Sixth, it's the Timbers with 41 points. And just in the East, I would say every team in this one's still alive, even Colorado mathematically, even though they're at the bottom. So it's San Jose, Real Salt Lake, and Houston all still alive in the MLS playoff hunt. So a good conclusion to the season. Goal scorer Kai Kamara on top with 21. Giovinco is in second after getting a brace on the weekend with 19. David Villa on 13 points. 17 goals, sorry. Chris Wondolowski and Robbie Keane both tied on 15 for fifth place, and that's the MLS this week, Joe.
All right, so let's take it back to Europe at this point and discuss the Champions League and Europa League. As we had indicated earlier, we did have matches over the week, both in the Champions League and the Europa League. Starting, and I'll go ahead and rip through the scores quickly, and then we'll talk about our match of the week rather quickly. On Tuesday, Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah, really quickly.
I know. Come on, pal. It's like getting a root canal. You just got to go do it. Hey, listen. If the tide was turned, I'd have to sit here and suffer through it, right?
But I'm sure you'd want to do it really quickly too.
I mean, if you recall, after the Champions, so I've done my part for King and Country, I guess, and I'm not gloating that we won. I'm just I'm happy to talk about it, I guess. So back to the scores: Paris Saint-Germain 2-0 over Malmo.
Sick brag.
Great match.
Yep, with the return of, or the first time, a hat trick for Cristiano Ronaldo in that one.
Yep.
Wolfsburg 1-0 over CSKA Moscow. In certainly one of the biggest upsets of the Champions League week, PSV Eindhoven 2-1 over Man United. It was not a good day for Manchester.
Oh, Luke Shaw.
And Luke Shaw out for an extended amount of time with a nasty broken leg in that one. Atletico Madrid 2-0 over Galatasaray. Benfica 2-0 over Astana. Sevilla 3-0 over Borussia Mönchengladbach. And our match of the week, Juventus on the road at the Etihad 2-1 over Manchester City. I'm trying to recall the goals now. I do know Alvaro Morata was one.
Own goal by Giorgio Chiellini.
Giorgio Chiellini was the own goal, and then there was one other goal who I cannot recall, and I dare not, with my computer the way it's acting, look up the box.
Mandzukic.
Oh, Mario Mandzukic, that's right. So, moving on to Wednesday's match. Bayern Leverkusen 4-1 over Bate Borisov. Roma and Barcelona played to a 1-1 draw at Stadio Olimpico in Rome. Dinamo Zagreb 2-1.
Beautiful goal by Florenzi.
Yes, by Florenzi. Shot reminiscent of Carly Lloyd in the World Cup final for the women. Shot from midfield just over, basically chipping Ter Stegen to score that one to tie it up. Dinamo Zagreb 2-1 over 10-man Arsenal. Let's talk about that one real quick for a second, because Mike, you and I talked about this on Twitter. The red card in this one to Olivier Giroud for dissent on both occasions. Picked up the yellow for dissent in the first case, and then the yellow for dissent again, and got himself sent off for the rest of the night. And Mike, this is something that I had mentioned, well, first I'm going to go to what you had mentioned. You had mentioned that the officiating needs to have a little bit of a thicker skin, and I do agree with you. I do think they do need to carry a little bit of a thicker skin, but at the same time, if you're Olivier Giroud and you got booked once for dissent already, don't you shut up?
Yeah, but I think the ref has an onus just to tell him to shut the hell up the first time before just whipping out a yellow that the first time.
But I'm talking about on the second yellow.
I know. Well, the second one yellow, that's obviously just a given. He's already on one. But I mean, he shouldn't be on one already, in my opinion. I don't know. I just think in such a big game like that, the refs are always trying to integrate themselves and become part of the game. And
they don't need to be.
There's just, not every, and in this case, this is a whole different story, but not every foul is a yellow card.
I agree.
Not that this was a foul, I'm not saying that, but it's, right. I just see it every game.
And in fact, I would say, in all honesty, the two fouls were, I would say, rather benign. I mean, they were fouls. They were fouls, but they weren't cardable offenses.
Poor.
Yeah, and like you said.
And we talked about it, in my opinion, reffing in football, in soccer, is the worst of all the sports.
And that was the other discussion that we had, that I don't care, because the computer's failing so much. We've already been disconnected about 3 times, so I don't want to go ahead and rehash that, for lack of a better term.
Right.
So I think,
yeah.
So maybe one of these days, though, we will have that as a discussion. But let me continue on the scores then. Olympiacos losing at home 3-0 to Bayern Munich. Dinamo Kiev and Porto playing to a 2-2 draw. In my recollection, the only draw of the... Oh, no, there's one other. We have Chelsea 4-0 over Maccabi Tel Aviv. Zenit St. Petersburg 3-2 over Valencia. And the other draw in the Champions League this week, Ghent 1-1 draw with Lyon. Ghent down to 9 men at that point, in that match at 1 point. So in the standings for the Champions League. In Group A, we have Real Madrid and PSG on top with 3 points each. Group B, PSV Eindhoven and Wolfsburg 3 points each at the top of the table. Group C, Atletico Madrid and Benfica at the top 3 points each. Barca and Roma are on a 1-1 draw, are all both on 1 point. C on top with 3 points. Porto in second place, tied with Dinamo Kiev. And Maccabi Tel Aviv in last place there. And I seem to have frozen from here, gentlemen, so I may not...
Everybody who won's on 3 points. Everybody who lost is on 0, and everyone who tied's on 1. We've only played one game.
Exactly. So, do you guys have the Europa tables up?
I can get it right now. Europa League tables.
Yeah, the Europa League tables.
Yeah, I can get it
All
right now.
right, so in Group A, it's Moldy on 3, Celtic on 1, Ajax on 1, Fenerbahce on 0. Group B, it's FC Zion on 3, Liverpool and Bordeaux both on 1, Rubin Kazan on 0. Group 3, Dortmund at the top on 3, FK Fabala.
Pauk. Just Pauk.
And Salanoka on 1 with, wow, I should get spelling lessons. Krasnodar on 0. Maybe this is why I hate the Europa League, because I can't pronounce the team.
You need lessons in Greek.
Group D, it's Napoli on 3 with Bruges both on 0. Group E, topping Victoria Plzen and Rapid Vienna both on 3. Losers are Villarreal and Minsk. They're both on 0. Group F, Marseille and Braga both on 3. Liberec and Group G, they all drew, so it's Rosenborg, Saint Etienne, Lazio, and Dynapro on 1. On 3, Belenenses and Poznan on 1, and Fiorentina at the bottom, winless in their first game on 0. Tottenham tops Group J with 3, Monaco and Anderlecht both on 1, and Karabag on 0. Group K, it's Schalke with 3, Prague and Tripoli both on 1, and Apollo Nicosia on 0. Group L and the final group, it's Bilbao and Belgrade both with 3 points. AZ Akmar and Augsburg both winless, so on 0 points, and that's all after opening day.
All right. Gentlemen, we are going to end up ripping through this program early, and with all due respect, we're going to end up playing Sivan John's interview, I think, maybe next week, because we are having a lot of technical stuff. I've actually got everything shut down on my computer at this point, other than the radio server and Skype and the show plan, and it's still blotchy in and out. So I want to apologize to all the listeners. I will basically take the audio and see if I can patch it together and if it's even worth posting or not. If it's not, we'll put something up on the website with our predictions for match of the week. But gentlemen, let's see if we can get that in. Do you think we can possibly get match of the week up and running, or do you think we should maybe write it as an article on the website?
We can get it quickly.
All right, let's try to get it quickly, and then what we'll do is I will probably put together a quick little ditty on the website based on the failure. So, all right, Rob, I'm going to send it back over to you then and give us the La Liga match.
The week is this Saturday, Villarreal versus Atletico Madrid. Villarreal currently with 10 points, Atletico Madrid with 9, 1 point separating each other, third versus fifth. It's obviously a big match to see who would get that advantage right next to Barcelona, Real Madrid. But I think Atletico have the capability of beating this Villarreal side 2-1.
Okay. Let's go over to, because I have stats for this one. But if I recall correctly, Lille has only given up 1 goal in this season, but Reims is towards the top of the table. I'm going to take Reims in this one 1-0. I think they're going to sneak one by and keep up with their successful ways with this 2015-2016 season. So Reims 1-0. Mike, I know you don't have a result for us or a prediction, but for your match of the week in England.
But I do have that it's Saturday at 10 a.m. Last year they drew at Leicester 1-1, and Arsenal beat Leicester 2-1 at the Emirates, so I'll have that score by Friday, and yeah.
Yep, and keep an eye on the Twitter feed.
And actually, I'm sorry, I should say that is going to be 4 versus 5 in the table this weekend.
Yep, and like you'd said earlier,
Leicester in 4th.
10 a.m. Saturday. I told you Leicester's going to win the Champions League. They're going to end up in Europe. Or something.
They're going to win the Champions League. It's hard to win it when you're not in it.
Sorry, not Champions League. The EPL, the Premier League.
Oh, okay. Well, you're going to put your money like 10-1.
I probably would get more than that.
Yeah, you probably would, but I'll give you 10-1 for $100 if you want.
Nah, I'm good. Thank you.
All right.
Rob, back to the Bundesliga.
Yeah, Bundesliga. We have Bayern Munich against Wolfsburg tomorrow at 2 p.m. Second versus third, 4 points separating each other. I think a Wolfsburg win would definitely make this league much more interesting than it already is now. But I think Bayern Munich have the capability of just slotting right in. 2-1 Bayern.
2-1 Bayern in that one. So we'll go back to Italy, and our match of the week is going to be on Sunday at 2:45 p.m. I apologize to everyone last week for a 6:30 a.m. Chievo-Inter match as a match of the week, but unfortunately I don't make the schedule. But this week, a little more palatable in terms of time, Sunday, 2:45 p.m. We have first place Inter and Fiorentina playing in Milan. And obviously, I believe Fiorentina, if I recall correctly, currently in 5th place in the Serie A. Inter on top on 12 points. They're perfect 4-for-4. I don't see any reason they're not going to continue those winning ways. I'm going to take Inter in this one 2-1 and see what happens from there. So, Mike, back to you for the MLS match of the week.
Was last week's Serie A game in a different time zone in Italy or something? What was that?
No, it was just the noon match in Italy on Sunday, which
so there's 6 hours difference in Italy.
6 hours ahead. That's correct.
Oh, I thought it was 5. Okay.
Yeah. So,
the MLS game of the week takes place this Sunday at 9:30 p.m. It's the LA Galaxy taking on FC Dallas. They both picked up a win versus each other in the first 2 games. LA lost on the road 2-1 in Dallas and then beat Dallas at home just back in August 2-1. This one's going to be in LA, and I am going to predict the Galaxy win this one 2-1.
2-1 the Galaxy over Dallas. We've got actually a lot of 2-1 scores this week. In fact, the only one that's not is my Lille Rams match, which is 1-0. We'll have to see if the predictor goes 2-1 Arsenal or 2-1 Leicester. It'll make it a 2-1 week for us. So, all right, Mike, let's get back to the trivia question and see if we can figure it out. I didn't get a chance to write any more names down as I've been dealing with the computer fail the entire time. So,
all right. Well, I know you've been taking shorthand, so I'll read it out again, and perhaps you can whip down 8 of them in the time I read it.
Yeah. I'll try.
Since the Premier League began, 8 players with the letter Z in their name, that can be first or last name, have made over 200 Premier League appearances. Throw that in the first time, that it can be either first or last name.
Okay.
Just has to have a Z or a Z in their
like a Z in their first name.
Or their last name.
A Z
yes.
in their name, period. So,
I can give you one.
Well, let me ask you this first. Did Liam get them all?
Yes.
Of course he did. Okay. So, all right, Rob, you want to go with one? I still only have the 2 names, so.
Bobby Zamora?
Yes.
Damn it, that's one of the ones I had. So I had Bobby Zamora. The other one that I had was Luis Suarez. And did Skype fail?
No, it's here, but for some reason I don't have him on my list. So
I know 200.
Does he have 200 appearances? He doesn't have 200 appearances, so he's not on there.
That was my
no,
word.
he can, or he'd be on here. No.
All right, so
110.
No, so there you go. So Luis Suarez is wrong.
Pablo Zabaleta?
No.
Okay, Zabaleta.
Really?
And I would.
Rob, you're missing such an obvious one. Who? Yes, Mark Schwarzer. But Rob, you're still missing such an obvious one for you that you're going to kill yourself.
With the Z.
And actually, you too, Joe. You're missing 2 obvious ones, Joe.
Hold on.
So you've got Bobby Zamora and Mark Schwarzer.
Wow. This is one of the hardest questions.
Really, Joe? You can't come up with this one?
Oh, hold on.
Roque Santa Cruz.
No.
No.
Carlos Tevez.
No.
Yes. Now, Rob, there's one you should have had. Or Joe, yeah.
What was it?
Carlos Tevez.
Carlos Tevez. Okay. No, you're giving me somebody Italian, and I'm totally missing.
Yeah, you're missing. Yeah.
Gianfranco Zola. Gianfranco Zola.
Yes.
Gianfranco Zola. That's it.
Joe, what are you doing?
I know. No. I know. It was at the tip of.
Tevez and Schwarzer.
Javier Hernandez.
Horrible. Javier, no.
No. Okay.
I was just saying, Fernando Torres is it's an S, not a Z.
Dzeko hasn't played 200 matches.
No.
Has he?
No,
I don't think so.
Not in the Premier League. God, he was not even in the city for 2 years.
So what do we got?
Schwarzer, Zamora, Zola, Tevez.
It's 4.
God, we only got 4. Well, so just in case the computer craps out again, why don't you give us the last four, because this thing has already died twice since...
Zat Knight.
Who is it?
Zat Knight.
That night.
I don't know who that is.
Really?
Yeah, that one's not ringing a bell with me.
He's got 4 sets in his name.
No.
No.
You guys don't know Muzzy, is it either? I believe it was Portsmouth he played for. And Liverpool, Stefan Henoys.
Yeah, they're not ringing a bell. Sorry.
They're not ringing a bell with me either.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
These guys are like, okay, Zat Knight played for Fulham less than 10 years ago. I believe it was Fulham. I'm pulling these out. Charles Nzogbia, right?
Yeah, that name rings a bell.
He's still in the Premier League. If he's not, he was, as of like a year ago, with, I believe, Stoke or Newcastle was his last team. Muzzy, is it? Like I said, was Portsmouth, I believe. Stefan Henoys was at Liverpool for at least a season, if not 2. And, yeah, that's it. But Zat Knight was a defender and might still be with Fulham.
Well,
who was in the Premier League for a number of years before they got relegated. So I'm pretty sure he was with them the whole time.
Right. Well, gentlemen, without further ado, I am going to put the bow on this episode because right now the computer is semi-stable, and I'm going to blame it on Skype. So,
yeah, and actually, Charles Nzogbia is still with Aston Villa, playing right today.
Wow.
Huh.
So, yeah. Huh. You've never, wow, I'm surprised you haven't heard of him at least.
Yeah. It's just,
and can I just throw in one thing before we go?
Please.
Multiple reports that Juan Carlos Osorio is going to be named the next Mexican national coach.
I saw something about Tuca Ferretti. He, I don't know if...
This is from Tom Marshall.
And that's a pretty reliable source.
And Herculez Gomez also backing that.
Okay.
I am as well.
There you go. So, without further ado, gentlemen, this fail episode is got to die. So let's see if I can even cue up the closing music at this point, because for some reason it doesn't want to fire up for me. So, for episode 90 of Low Limit Football, I will see if we're going to put this up as an archived episode or we're going to totally scrap it and throw it away. But special thanks to Sivan John. Thanks to Simon Bajkowski. Although we couldn't connect, we will certainly be having him on in the next couple of weeks to discuss everything City and United. So, for the potential episode 90 of Low Limit Football, I'm Joe Usello.
I'm Roberto Rojas.
And I'm Michael are asking, who's a bigger dink, Zlatan Ibrahimovic or Diego Costa?
Diego Costa all day. Thanks for listening and good night.